Hey guys, welcome to the Rock and Road Show. This is the only video I could think about doing today, and it's one of the things that has been one of my biggest pet peeves my entire lifetime. I'm 64 now. I grew up on a Native American Indian reservation in New Mexico. I learned everything pretty much that I know about Native American Indian jewelry from actually my degree in archaeology and or the way that I grew up. When I grew up, I knew a lot of people in the Native American Indian jewelry field from one end to the other, from expensive to cheap, from fancy to pretty to old and falling apart. Doesn't matter. I met people and did things in the jewelry business, in the jewelry industry, and I've seen and worn things and owned stuff that you wouldn't believe. And some I will probably never sell. I'd prefer to be buried with it. So, this is a piece here I have for sale on eBay. You can go to my eBay page, take a look around. It's called TequilasunTrading. It's all one word, capital T's. You have to type it in and then look around because evidently eBay doesn't work very well. It works like Facebook. I wanted to talk about these beads today. I did a 15-second video. It wasn't very long, so I'm going to try to do this longer one because this subject comes up a lot. And I meet a lot of smartasses on eBay that think they know things and they know absolutely nothing. And they're not my age. You'd have to be older to know. I'm an older person. I told you how old I am. I told you where I grew up. I have met many famous people in the Native American world at fairs, flea markets, in business, in trade, in jewelry repair places, in pawn shops. These people owned their own businesses. They made this stuff themselves, and or I had personal friends. I had personal friendships with people that were extremely famous, and a lot of them are passed away now. I'm a lot older. When I sell my stuff on eBay, I also do it the old Native American Indian way. It might not be the way that you like, but it's the way that I grew up. It's the way that I was taught, and it's the old way. Today, though, I wanted to talk about these beads right here that a lot of white people, and they've now passed this around so long, so much that a bunch of foreigners are copying the same thing. They're calling these pearls. These ain't no pearls. These did not come from diving. They didn't come from the ocean. They didn't come from they kind of sort of did come from God if you look at the metallurgy of it. But they came from hard work and hard labor. They were in, as far as I know, there were different types and different shapes, which I actually happen to own, that started by the Spanish. In fact, I have a set of Spanish great big beads on my eBay still for sale right now, and I haven't found a buyer, and they are 1600s. And you will probably never see another set like them ever again. And they're really nice and long, and they do have the patina that haven't been screwed with. These were seamed, and I'm having a hard time with my iPhone 15 because it's a piece of crap. And the seams were done with a little tiny bit of heat and soldered together. And these were called bench beads or nail beads. And I'm going to show you and tell you why. I'm trying to get this iPhone to work a little better here. I'm going to point right down in towards the back of this bead. See how it kind of slightly indents in? It has a slight indentation. These are an older bead. These were poked with a nail. The kind of nail you would use to make a fence or build a house or get at the hardware store. Yes. And these were either called nail beads or bench beads. And actually the first original term was nail beads, because they would pick up a nail, and while these were still kind of warm or soft, actually, because some of these come in different strengths, because silver is mixed in different strengths, and that's a whole nother freaking story we can't go into today. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I keep saying we can't go into today, because this is a whole entire anthropological science. Even though my degree is in archaeology, is Southwestern Indigenous Tribes, the North American continent, I've lived and traveled all over the world, it is kind of sort of considered an anthropology. But I believe that the antique pieces should fall into archaeology, but that's my personal opinion. So, these beads were called pearls sometime later on. I know the first time I heard the term was in the 1980s, and to take something and call it something else by a culture that has spent almost 200 to 400 years making jewelry is downright, I put down, a slang, and it's disgusting. It's deplorable. There you go. I'm going to use that word. It would be like, I can't even come up with an example to tell you the truth. It would be like saying Adam in the Bible actually didn't wear fig leaves. He ran around in skirts that he made by hand. Well, where did he get the material? And I'm sorry, I don't think he really did. I think in the beginning he did have fig leaf. In the beginning, these were called nail beads. Then they were called bench beads. They were never called a pearl by the Native American Indians, because the Native American Indians made them by hand and worked very hard and long. It takes a long time to make one of these. Somebody who's, I've lived and worked with Native American Indians of different tribes. I grew up on the Indian reservation. I am part Native American also myself. I'm part Hopi. I've had Native American Indian friends show me how to make jewelry and design it, and sit there all day and do one little tiny piece. All day long in the living room, of different tribes and of different styles. So I'm going to try and throw this into my rock and road show, because I think it has a lot to do with rocks. And it has a lot to do with being on the road. So a pearl comes from the ocean, and pearls are perfectly round. Tentatively speaking. And pearls are made by God, and pearls take a long time. And it's kind of a cutesy word, but if you think about it, you're alleviating the originator that takes almost, I've seen some Native American bench bead makers make these pretty quickly, because you can line them up on your bench in a row, and you can use different anvils on your bench, and you can hammer out a whole bunch of silver that you've already cut all day long. Like all morning long you cut your silver, then you line them up on a bench, you can hammer them out. Then you have to solder them together. That's why it's always good to have kids or friends help you, because they can do some of that, and you just sit there and solder all freaking day long. Yeah, I've had friends like that. I've gone to their house and helped them make stuff all day long. If you had to sit down and do one of these beads, and you were really fast at it, and they were kind of the bigger bead, I don't know if you can see by the size of my fingernails how little these beads are, and kind of get an idea how tiny. These are some pretty tiny beads here. They take longer, and it can take, I've seen them made from scratch. It takes about 30 minutes per bead. Yeah, that's no joke. And even if you have relatives helping you, or friends come over and help you, even to sit there and solder, and then, because after these are soldered, they need to be lightly buffed or sanded or polished with something, and there's different types of materials and a process for that also. I've been through all that too. I have sat around and made jewelry. Yeah, I learned from very famous people. This piece is for sale online on my eBay, by the way. And it does have a turquoise spirit bead here at the top. And there's a reason why. Because only God makes things that are perfect. So the spirit bead, that would be anytime you find a Native American piece that's got one bead that's like standing out alone by itself and doesn't really match, and it's in a wandering spot, a spot where it kind of wandered in alone by itself, that's called a spirit bead. That's to show you it's Native American made. It's not made by God. All right, so a little bit on the history on these nail beads or bench beads that are hammered out and then poked with a nail. Well, some of them, actually, I have seen some that were extremely old and they've been poked with needles. Tiny little sewing machine needles or tiny little hand sewing needles, buffalo hide needles. Oh, yeah. Or I've seen them actually when they were first made, the whole idea came from putting two coins together. And actually, I have some like that. I'm just not going to show them on today's video. So, the coins, when they were soldered together, they still had to be hammered on a bench to get that curve, that roundish type curve. And they were extremely hard for me to find them in the 1980s. And in the 80s, I also didn't have enough money to buy anything like that if I did find it. I have owned them through the years. They were usually stolen somehow. Yeah. And most of my stuff now I keep in a bank vault. I keep it on my body, and I will hurt you and kill you if you try to take it off me. It'll be your last attempt at taking someone's jewelry. And these ones here, you can see the seams. They're all handmade. They're all different. They're not all exactly the same. And some of them are bent and mashed, so you know that these are older ones. Like, see how the pan has dents and it's been bashed in? An old set of beads is going to be like that. Yeah, that's exactly it. And these I bought online a while back, quite a while ago, from somebody else, and then I restrung them, and then I made sure to put the spirit bead on there and did it the way I was taught how to do it, and so they're good to go. In the beginning, though, when the Spanish did them, they did them in slightly different sizes, but the whole basic idea came from coins, putting coins together. So originally, they were originally 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago, they were called coin beads. And the Egyptians did them too. So, but for all intents and purposes, when you're online looking at a Native American Indian necklace, have some respect, have some common sense, have some fortitude to give credit where credit is due. They're not pearls made by God. They're not pearls from the ocean. They were hand hammered, hand dented, hand made, hand stamped, hand labored, hand polished, hand soldered, hand everything, including the silver often is mixed and melted down to make the silver crucible, the silver goblet, the silver inglet, to then begin to even make plate and have the type of flat plate that you need to start stamping these out. Call them what they are. They're a nail bead or a bench bead. That's it for me for today. I think that's all I've got on this right now, because you're going to end up getting some of these as repeat stories later on if I get to do more channel stuff on the jewelry. I don't think a lot of people like the jewelry videos I've done. I haven't seen very many likes. I've seen no subscribers. But they're there anyhow. They're there because it's part of history. It's part of the truth. It's part of reality, and I think it's really special. I think it's very important that we know and we remember where we came from, how we got here, and what happened. And these are never, ever, ever disrespected as far as I'm concerned. And they are not called pearls. And they're not called Navajo pearls. And they're not called native pearls. And quite frankly, I've met a couple of young Indian girls that try to call them that and then disrespected me for telling them the truth. How these are made and what they were called. Yeah. So let's keep our dignity. Let's keep our history. Let's keep the truth. Let's keep the real language for some of this stuff and stop changing it into other things that it's just not. That's it. That's all I got for today. I thought this was really important, and it bugged me for a really long time, and people brought it up in the last week again. And if you're interested in my pieces, like I said, I've got the eBay channel. I just went through the double floods in Texas and my place was completely wiped out. And no, I didn't have a bunch of insurance for that. No, I didn't have full coverage for that. No, I did not FEMA qualify. No, 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 and no. So everything you spend on my eBay page will help. And I'm also older and my health is in the can. And I need the money to keep my life together. And I'll be making some more pieces and having them on there. It just takes a lot of time because I have to set stones and I have to string antique stuff, and it takes a lot of time. And that's about it. So, thank you. Don't forget to respect. Don't forget your history. Have a good